My screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Operating systems are two types. Please note down this one. One is base OS. That means the OS that is we are using in our home PC or laptop. Another is server. And in these classes, we will only learn about the server OS, not guest OS. You can see this is my PC and this PC is installed with the Windows 10. This is the client operating system. This is not a server operating system. But whenever we will work in a system administrator, at that time we have to manage the server operating system, not a client operating system. So we need to understand what is a server operating system and why we will call a operating system as a server. Okay. So in case of client operating system or workstation operating system, they are Windows 10, Windows 7, Windows 11 like this. But in case of server, it is divided into two types. One is Linux, another is Windows. So in Windows operating system or Windows server, what we can do, that we can do in the Linux server as well. So in our session or in our classes, we will be learn Linux operating system, that is version 8. That is called as RHEL 8. Red Hat operating system 8. So one who will understand the RHEL 8, he can easily work with CentOS, Rocky Linux, Alma Linux. These flavors he can easily work. So in market, the major distribution or the major operating system is using as RHEL 8, which is the Red Hat operating system version 8. So I will show you the PPT and where I will try to understand you the fundamental things today. It might be a theory class, but this will clear your fundamentals so that in future classes it is easier to understand you. So what is Linux? Linux is a family of free and open source operating system based on Linux kernel. So Linux kernel is a very low software which manage the operating system, Linux operating system. Okay. Operating system based on Linux are known as Linux distributions. Example: Debian, Ubuntu, Fedora, CentOS, Gentoo, Arch Linux. So these are the major distributions which plays a vital role in market. So market newcomers are Rocky Linux and CentOS changed to CentOS Strip. As I told you, one who familiar with RHEL, he can manage the CentOS and Rocky Linux, Alma Linux. But market leading operating systems are Red Hat and CentOS. So difference between Red Hat and CentOS is Red Hat is the enterprise level operating system and whereas CentOS is the free open source server. That means for Red Hat we can get the enterprise level support from the Red Hat, but CentOS is a community base. We will not get the enterprise level support, but we can get the support from the community. So major of the companies, they are working their production servers in RHEL and some of also using the CentOS. So how to use? We can use the Linux operating system in GUI and command line mode. This is the desktop of the Linux operating system and another is the command line mode. So this is called the terminal, where I can use the commands and I can use the same thing what I can use in GUI. So newcomers to Linux may find it somewhat difficult to approach, as Linux file systems have a different structure than those found in Windows. That means Windows is completely GUI based, but Linux operating system is more easier to handle with command prompt, not in GUI. So it is little bit difficult for the newcomers to work with Linux. So Fedora, OpenSUSE, Ubuntu, these are the major distributions. Commercially backed distributions such as Fedora, that is backed by Red Hat, OpenSUSE, that is backed by SUSE, and Ubuntu, that is backed by the Konica Limited. That means these are the distributions where we can get the enterprise level support. That means OS level support we can get. In case of Fedora, we will get the support of Red Hat. In case of OpenSUSE, it will be supported by SUSE, and for Ubuntu, we can get the support from the Konica Limited. So community-driven distributions such as Debian, Fedora, CentOS, Slackware, Gentoo, and Arch Linux. These are the community-based distributions. And the market newcomer is Rocky Linux and Alma Linux. Some important terms are terminal, shell, command line, and interface. So this is the terminal where we can use the commands, and the shell is the program that exposes the computer operating system to users or programs, and command line interface is a user interface managed by command line interpreter program, which processes the commands to a computer program and output of the result. So the kernel is the main component of Linux operating system and OS, and is the core interface between the memory management, process management, device drivers, system calls, and security. So kernel is a small software which manage the memory, processes, device drivers, system calls, and security. So packages in Linux are .rpm, that is Red Hat Package Manager. Packages can be installed in both command line and GUI mode. So as we know, in Windows, we are using the packages to install a software, that is the extension of exi.exe. Likewise in Linux, that is the .rpm. You can see this is a very small software, and this is the Windows software. So extension is .exe. Likewise, if we will check with RHL softwares, you can see this is the extension .rpm. My screen is visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So i386, that refers to 34-bit addition, and x86 64, that is refers to 64-bit addition. So you can see here all these packages are EL8 S86 underscore 64.rpm. That means this is the RHL 8 version package, and it is a 64-bit package. So whenever we will install a package in a Linux, at that time we need to know which version of operating system we are using. Here we can check So don't worry, these commands I will tell you in future classes for your knowledge. This is the version is CentOS Linux, and if we will use the command hostname CTL, Here you can see the architecture is x86-64 bit. That means we are using the 64-bit operating system. So whenever we will install a package, at that time we will check the version and accordingly we will install a package. Then before moving forward, we will need to access a computer running Linux based operating system. It may be a virtual server and we need to connect to the virtual server with a SSH tool, and OS may be RHL or CentOS because both are same, but only difference is in case of RHL we will get the OS level support from the Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So for our practice purpose, we can use CentOS or RHL both, but CentOS is good for us because we can download packages and install the packages from the CentOS repository, as it is a open source and community driven operating system. So we will practice in CentOS operating system for this session. And the tools will be Putty, which is a very small software. You can see this is the Putty software through which we will connect the Linux server using the port 22, and we will use the commands, and we can use the operating system with the commands using the Putty tool. And another tool is a FileZilla client. This is a very small software through which we can transfer the files. You can see this is the FileZilla software through which we can transfer packages from my desktop to the Linux server. Here we will use the IP address, here we will use the username, and here password, then port will be 22. So let me show you here. To check the IP address, we will use the command IPA, and the IP address here you can see 192.168.37.130, 192.168.37.130. You can see it is asking for me the username and password. Now I have connected to the CentOS server through the Putty software using the port 22. Here if I will check cat/etc OS-release, you can see this is the version is CentOS version. hostname.ctl. This is the kernel, and the kernel version. This is the kernel version, and x86-64 bit. It's a 64-bit operating system, and the host name is localhost.localadmin, and this is a virtual server. You can see virtual machine. That means this is not a physical operating system. This VM is this is a virtual machine and runs on the hypervisor VMware. So and some basic things are slash. Slash is called as root, that is the parent directory in Linux. That means likewise in Windows, whenever you will click on the my computer, at that time you will see the drives. That means C drive, D drive, and according to your partition, it will show the drives. But in Linux, the root directory is the parent directory. Whenever you will click on the directory, that means in Windows it is called a folder, but in Linux it is called as a directory. pwd. Here you can see it's a slash. That means slash is the root, which is the parent directory in Linux operating system. And root user is the super user. Likewise, in administrator user in Windows operating system, root user is the super user, having unlimited access, and slash root is the home directory for root user. Whenever you will connect to the Linux operating system, here you can see pwd, this is slash root. Okay, so slash root is the home directory for root user. Why I am telling this? Because whenever you will assign a task in your office to take the backup of a Linux operating system and restore the files of the users to another server, at that time you need the home directory of the user. So how you will check the home directory of a user? Whenever the root slash root is the home directory for the root user, and home directory for other users are slash home slash username. cd slash home, you can see the slash home, and in slash home other home users home directories are located here. Vishnu, Duke, John DK, Raj, these are the sum of other users in created in this operating system, and these are the home directory for the other users. That means here two things we need to remember: the all users home directory will be in slash home, and in case of root user the home directory will be slash root. These two things we need to remember here. And Linux OS based on directory and file structure. That means Linux operating system, this is based on the file and directory structure. That means in all file on all directory you will see the files. These are all the some of these are files, and some of these are directory, and all configuration. This is, you can see cfg, this is a configuration file, this is txt, this is a text file, and run, this is a directory. So Linux is based on file and directory structure, and the default browser is Firefox. Whenever we will install a Linux operating system, we will get the Firefox as a default browser, and the tools will be system monitor. Likewise, task manager in Windows, we will use the system monitor. In GUI, as a GUI tool to monitor the resources utilization in the Linux operating system, and setting is similar to the control panel in Windows, and network troubleshooting tools like ping and telnet, and system controls like shutdown and restart. That means using the shutdown command we can shut down the server, and using the restart we can restart the server. And ping and telnet both are the small tools through which we can test the network troubleshooting command. These are the network troubleshooting command. That means IPA, using the ping command we can check the connectivity. So if I will do a self telnet, self ping, then you can see using the ping command we can check the connectivity. And telnet is the command through which we can check the connectivity of the ports services. That means I will give you a small example. This is a putty software through which we can connect to a Linux server using the port 22. So that means port 22 in the server should be listened to me so that I can connect to a server. So if I will check this one, telnet, then server IP 192. Port will be 22. You can see this is connected. That means my server is listening to the port 22. That's why I am able to connect from the putty software to the server. So is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Or any doubt you can ask me. So today we learn about the Linux distributions, Linux architecture, Linux kernel, and some Linux basics.
Sir,
Anyone having
please
any?
provide.
Please ask me.
Sir, please provide that recorded video before the
Yes,
next
sure. I
lecture.
will upload the recorded video.
Okay.